joining us. Andrew Albers, former Major League pitcher. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous would some of these guys be tonight on the New York side?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Obviously, they haven't played the way they wanted to in the first two games, and New York can be a pretty ruthless place to play if you're not doing what they expect you to. So, for those guys' sake, I hope they get off to a decent starter. It could be a boo city there real quick.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually hoping to see, the Bronx faithful going nuts. Andrew, when you watching this, and I know we talked to you on the Monday Nooner a few last month. What did you see going into the playoffs for the Jays, and where was your confidence level with them?
It was hard to say. It wasn't something that I think they really overachieved this year as a team. With a lot of the injuries, they had a lot of guys that really stepped up and played important roles for them that I think at the beginning of the year, if you look at that roster, you don't expect to get the production you did out of some of these guys. And seeing guys like Barger and Clement and Lucas and those kinds of guys have the years that they did, put them in this kind of position. And so looking at the way that they've played and looking at how confident they are going into this, you weren't real sure what to expect to see if it would continue on in the postseason. And certainly the first two games, it's been all that and more.
Andrew, you've been in the clubhouses and dugouts of professional baseball. Now, the last two playoff appearances by the Blue Jays, they just look like one uptight pile of people. John Schneider was the manager. They were it was almost like they were afraid to lose. Stiff. And they're not. They're anything but. Apparently, John Schneider has loosened the atmosphere this season. The guys are jacking around in the clubhouse, playing cards, having more fun. Do you see that? Do you see a looser team than what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. The nice thing there is that the team this year, I mean, if you're talking about 15, 16, like this is a younger team, obviously not as more similar to the teams that made it there in, what was it, 22, the wild card games, 22, 23 there. But I mean, I think you see these guys have grown from that experience, understand that, it's another game and that you don't perform better when you take it more seriously or when you get uptight. So, they've matured a little bit and they've gained some of that experience. And I think you're really seeing that is with their approach to the game, and they're able to stay a little bit looser and have a little bit more fun with it. And I think that's when you play a lot better.
As a pitcher, what are you seeing here so far from the Blue Jays against the Yankees? Because it was a big question, especially the bullpen going in.
Well, I think the nice thing for the pitching staff has been the amount of runs that have been scored by the Jays, right? The bullpen hasn't been put in a pressure situation yet. Gosman did a nice job. Obviously, Yasevich yesterday or 2 days ago, was outstanding. I mean, what he did, the start that he gave them at, 23 years old, the composure that he showed and the electric stuff that he had 2 days ago was just obviously exactly what the doctor ordered. And then you put up 8 or 9 runs and you feel like that game's kind of out of reach. So the bullpen hasn't been tested yet. Obviously, it was a question mark coming in, and certainly it's going to be tougher in New York. If that game's a close game late, that'll be where we really find out about them. I think as of right now, there's still a little bit of a question mark there. The nice thing is they've had some rest. They've had some time to, make some tweaks in their bullpens and things like that. And so hopefully they're feeling really confident, and that can go a long ways. And, you got Hoffman at the back end of that who has electric stuff when he's on. And so hopefully he can anchor that pen and they'll be just fine.
When we look at that Trey Yasevich, and again, not like the hardcore baseball guy, but I've been following it now for a month and going in. Is there something to be said where there's not a ton of sample size when a guy like that goes in?
Certainly for a guy like him, he has a lot of unique characteristics with his delivery, and they've talked about that a lot on the broadcast. He has this really high release point. I believe it's the second highest in the majors next to Verlander's, and, a huge amount of vertical break on the fastball, and then the splitter is obviously outstanding too. So not having seen that before, and obviously the way he's been able to command the baseball has been huge. I mean, I think he walked one guy there in his 5 1/3 and didn't give up a hit. And I mean, he was just lights out. And when you haven't seen a guy with that repertoire, the way that he does it, and he's on, that makes it a tough day for hitters. And so certainly that lack of sample size, that lack of experience, you don't know how he's going to approach you. All those things play into his favor. And usually what doesn't is the age and the experience. And there were no signs of him lacking either of those the other day. So big advantage to Savage.
You bet. Now, when I've watched most of the games as best as I can, and the most movement I've seen on a baseball are from two pitchers, Ohtani and Yasavage, which just blows my mind that he is throwing, I think it's the splitter, the drops. Tell me about his mechanics on that, Andrew. I know a high release point, but did anybody see this coming where he's looking like Ohtani out there with the movement on the ball?
Yeah, again, I think a lot of that relates to the arm angle and the difference. I think the movement on the splitter is good. I don't think it's an outlier, unlike the kind of fastball and then the release angle. And so when you put those two things together, how high he releases the ball, and then the fact that the fastball has so much vertical break to it, you throw the splitter in there, and even if it's average, it just looks completely different. And the other thing that helps is the swings that guys are taking on it right now, and they're just obviously not picking it up at all. A lot of bad swings, a lot of swings and miss, and that always makes everything look better. Certainly, you talk about Ohtani. Ohtani's got tremendous movement on his stuff. There's no question about that. There's a lot of guys that are throwing just ungodly breaking balls now. If you get a chance to watch Matt Brash there, or sorry, Matt Brash. I always get him confused.
Right. Yeah.
Matt Brash with the Mariners, his slider is something else too, and that's another Canadian guy. I got to see him firsthand, and his stuff is absolutely electric as well. But there's certainly no question that Yasevich is feeling really good right now. His command's been amazing, and that splitty is certainly something that not many guys have seen, and it's a little bit of an outlier pitch, and he's having a lot of success with it.
What are you seeing? Can you pinpoint anything? Obviously, he's a great player, but what a time for Vladdy to be a dog.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's great to see, right? You need your superstars to be superstars in the playoffs, and so far, obviously, through the first two games, he's been just that. Especially without Bo Bichette there, Vladdy's really kind of carried the load, and that's what you need. You need those guys to come up big in big situations, and hopefully he can continue to do that. Obviously, the last two games end up being confidence builders for him, and I don't think there's anybody else you'd want up there right now than Vlad Guerrero in a big spot.
I've heard the odd idiot say, well, baseball, you stand around. Chemistry isn't as important as other sports like hockey or football. I know you realize that's bogus. The Blue Jays' chemistry just looks amazing, really, does it not?
I agree. I think the energy that's come from a lot of those young guys that have played important roles and that have now started to settle in, and again, they're bringing a ton of energy every night. They do so many of the little things really well. They run the bases really well. They put the ball in play. They play really good defense. And you're really kind of seeing that manifest in the way that they play the game, and they seem to enjoy each other's company. They certainly seem to have gelled and seem to get along really well, and I think that does go a long ways. I mean, doesn't matter what sport you're playing, chemistry in the locker room, in my opinion, is an important thing, and it just makes it a lot more fun to go to the ballpark and make sure that you get your work in, and you're motivated to do so because you want to make sure you don't let the guy beside you down. And I think that's certainly something that you're seeing with how the Jays are playing right now.
Andrew, if you rolled out to the Diefenbaker Diamonds or maybe to Leafs on a Tuesday night in the summer, you'd see guys that look like Alejandro Kirk out there. You would see those guys maybe stopping at Vern's on the way home for sure. This guy does not look like a baseball player. He's going up and down all that much. As a guy that pitched and bat catchers, my dad used to say, like the knees of a bat catcher and the hips. How does this guy get it done with that frame? And did you ever play with anyone that kind of looked like he does?
It's impressive. And the thing with Kirk is he's unbelievable at framing the baseball. And the catching's changed a little bit now because you have so much of it that goes down on one knee. But he's up there with the best in baseball with how he receives the baseball. And it's really impressive what he's done. And then obviously at the plate, he just has tremendous hand-eye coordination. His bat to ball skills are really, really good. And it's great to see that somebody kind of his stature that you don't necessarily see as a prototypical big leaguer is having some success. I think it really shows that, it's not always the best athletes that have the most success in baseball. That's kind of one of the few sports where that's not the case. And there are some other things involved. You see a guy like Altuve, same thing. He's about 5'7" and just hits the ball all over the place. And it's one of the nice things with baseball. As far as guys that I've played with like that, nobody really comes to mind. There's certainly some not great athletes that I've played with that have been pitchers. I'd say you see more pitchers that have that non-prototypical athlete look than you do position guys, because some of those guys you're not sure if they can throw and chew gum at the same time, but they can sure do one of those things really well. And a lot of times when they get up to that level, they can really throw a baseball. And luckily for pitchers, that's all you need to be able to do.
You're gonna pour one out for the late Kirby Puckett. He didn't look like a baseball player much. Like John Kruk, you can kind of go down. All right, so can we ask you? Can we let you go with maybe a prediction? Do they sweep tonight? Is this thing? Do we get a little dicey if they win in the Bronx tonight? What are you thinking?
You know what? Just got to go with my heart and hope that they do. Hopefully Bieber is the Bieber of old, and he can go out and give them a good start and give them that opportunity. I think it's going to be tough. Obviously, New York, hostile crowd. I think the Blue Jays go out and get it done tonight. I'm going to say Bieber has an excellent start, gives them 6 quality innings, and the bullpen's able to shut it down. Let's go with a 4-2 Jays.
Right on.
Right on. There you go.
A true Canadian.
Yeah.
That's right.
Andrew, thanks so much for hopping on and doing this. Maybe if they advance, we can do this again. Love the insight and the mind and what you're seeing out there. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.